are you falling short? And what we intend to do with this session is to firstly motivate you. So we're going to start off with this session with a video that speaks about getting good grades and how hard it is. If it was easy to have good grades, every single person in your school would be a top achiever, but it's not easy. It takes hard choices. It takes being focused. Let's have a look at this video. I'd like you to take some notes on this video. Of course, we're going to do a little bit of an exercise afterwards. And remember, this is about you empowering each other. So I need you to be engaged in this session, take notes, be able to answer some of the questions so that we are progressing as we're putting in the building blocks to getting you back to above 70% and even closer to 100.
Eddie Gordon said, "You can do the easy things in life. Life is going to be hard, I promise you. But if you go out there and do those hard things," I'm talking studying when your friends are partying, preparing for an exam 1 month in advance when your friends are leaving it to the night before. If you go about it and do those hard things, those things that no one wants to do, then life will be easy. It's a choice that you have to make. You have to step up and walk that path, take that road, that lonely, dark, cold road. That road that so many people don't want to take. That's when you're going to truly find yourself.
Why is it that you don't want to grow? Why is it that you just settle for the grades that you're getting? Why is it that you just shy away from challenging yourself and taking life on like you've got another 100 lifetimes after this? Why is it? Because doing well at school, at university, it's hard. It's hard getting good grades. But we are in charge of the life we live. And when you're in charge, you say, if it's hard, then do it hard. Don't allow this to stop you. There is no easy mode in this. What is the easiest way to turn your grades around? Your attitude about it. That you decide that you are not working at your full potential. That you decide your grades do not represent what you can achieve. Charles Wendell said, "The longer I live, the more I realize the impact attitude has on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It's more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It's more important than appearances, giftedness, or skill." And we have a choice every day, the attitude that we're going to come at life. You cannot change what grades you got in the past. You cannot change the exams that you failed. You can't even change what you did yesterday. But you can change how you will attack tomorrow.
Those moments that you think you don't want to do something. When you want to procrastinate, when you think, I'll do it tomorrow, that's exactly when you have to go for it. When things get hard, don't ever ask, why me? Dig deep down and say, try me, because I'm stronger than anything you can throw at me. Because I've been down that dark path. I've been alone, and I rose up above it all. If you fail, it's because you're reaching for something that is worth failing for. If you fail, it's not over. If you fail, fall on your back and look up. If you can look up, you can get up. And if you learn, then it's not a failure. You don't lose if you learn. Grab life by the horns and go for it. Stop waiting. Stop looking for other people's approval. Take a chance. Take a risk. There's nothing worse than regret. and thinking what could have been. How bad do you want it? Are you talking about it or are you studying for it? Greatness is no joyride. Greatness is full of adversity and obstacles. How bad do you want it? How dedicated are you to achieving extraordinary grades? When you get up in the morning, don't look at your emails. Don't look at your phone. Don't think about yesterday's problem and yesterday's struggles. Focus!
You gotta make a decision to stop making excuses and get it done. There's nobody in this world that's going to get you what you want. You're going to have to go out there and get what you want by studying hard. Being talented is not good enough.
Getting good grades is hard. That is the fact of the matter. That is what it is. But this is why we are all here today. Okay, I asked you to have pens and papers ready, your notebooks, and I asked you to pay attention. Before we get into the nitty-gritties of the study techniques, I want us to unpack this video because there's so much in it. There's so much in it about your character, so much in it about your attitude. There's even mention about talent and being skilled and hard work. I'm going to ask people to put up the alphabet for us very quickly. I don't know if some of you have played this game before, but I need you to all get involved. All right, we are going to put together an understanding of what it is that you think it takes to be excellent. What do you think that it is that it takes to get you at 100% at whatever subject that you are currently studying for? Is it talent? All right, so in front of you, you have the alphabet, right? So the alphabet is listed on the top there, and then numbers below the alphabet. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to spell the word act, all right? I would look at the letter A, and so I would use the number 1. I'd add with the letter C, so it's 3, so 1 plus 3, and then the letter T, which is 20, so 1 plus 3 plus 20 is 24, and that is the total for the word act. If we're looking at the word talent, get your pens and your papers out and even your calculators. I don't think you'll need them because you're superstars. What do the letters that make up the word talent add up to out of 100? Let's take some time for you to add those up. So talent, it's the letter T, that's 20. It's the letter A, that's 1. Then the letter L, that's 10. No, sorry, that's 12. The letter E, that's 5. The letter N, that's 14. And the letter T, that's 20. Can you write down for me what that score is? Right, so you think, oh, Olwethu is talented, so she'll always be better at me than this. Oh, Usandile is really great with numbers, so he'll always be great at maths with me. What number does letters that make up talent add up to? You've got talent, and perhaps you're willing to sacrifice. Perhaps you're willing to then put in the time. You're willing and able to say, I'm not going to see the movie. I'm not going to spend time on social media. What does the letters that make up success add up to? And you spell success for me, and you look at the numbers underneath the alphabet, and you add that up. Right, so you've got talent. So rather, sorry, I'm looking for sacrifice, not success. But we can get to, you can write down the answer for success as well for me. All right, we look at sacrifice as well. Okay. And now they say you are a genius, not even just talented, but purely a genius. You can do anything that has to do with physical science and you will nail it. If you add up the letters that make up a genius, that's 7 plus E, that's 5. The letter N, that's 14. The letter I, that's 9. The letter U, that's 21. The letter S, that's 19. What does genius add up to? Now back to success. If I have talent, if I have sacrifice, if I'm a genius, then surely success is guaranteed and I'll be achieving at 100%. Success is the letter S, that's 19. The letter U, 21. 2 C's, that's 3 plus 3. What does success add up to? All right, let's go to the slide where we tally up talent and sacrifice. What did those two things add up to? So talent, being naturally gifted at doing something, gives us 72%. That's a great mark, but it's not excellence. It's not the best. It's not 100%. Sacrifice, that's 73%. You've given up certain things. You've chosen to do one thing over the other. So you've sacrificed certain things to get to a level of excellence, to get to 100%. But you're only sitting at 73%. So it certainly can't be talent. It can't be sacrifice. What about genius? And what about hard? What's the total there? Now, genius is 75%. So to say that Onwaba is a genius at mathematics does not mean that she will get 100%, because the word genius does not add up to an excellent 100%. What about success? Life has been paved with successful stories. That only gives 89%, but we are looking for absolute excellence. We're looking for 100%. Yes, Litlabi, so I see genius is 75. I see all your answers coming through. What about hard work? Hard work is a word that we use every single time when we speak to you about motivating you, about sharpening your excellence. Can we go back to the alphabet with Luvugo and add up what hard work is? Hard work is also emphasized a lot in this video because it says getting good grades takes hard work. Can we see the alphabet and add up what hard work comes up to? If it gets us to 100, hard work gets us to 98%, almost to excellence, almost to 100%, where you're leaving no points behind, where you're leaving no test marks behind, where you are scoring at your very highest level, 98%. Surely talent, sacrifice, genius, success, and hard work should be enough for us to be super, super excellent. What about attitude? What about the mindset that you have when you get up to do what you need to do during the day? The attitude that you have when you step into your school environment, the attitude that you have when you engage with your books, the attitude that you have when you engage with your teachers, the attitude that you have when times are really, really tough and you don't feel great and you don't feel like putting in the work. If you put together the letters for attitude, we calculate attitude. What does that give you? You can go back to that alphabet slide with Luvugo. So it's the letter A, that's 1. Attitude, so 2 T's. Let's add those up. Attitude. And how about discipline? What does discipline add up to as well, as we look through this alphabet? Siwapiwa, I see your answer for attitude. Now let's tally up discipline. The letter D, the letter I, the letter S, letter C. Let's add those up. Let's spell discipline. What does that give you? Attitude is 100%, some guy, yes. And discipline, what does discipline give you? Let's see those totals with Luvugo. Hard work, 98. Attitude and discipline give you 100%. Attitude gives you 100% because it's the mindset, right? But with just attitude, do you think you can achieve success? Can you achieve excellence with just the right attitude? No, you need discipline as well. These two things come together hand in hand, because with just the right attitude and not the discipline to put in the work, not the discipline to be accountable, not the discipline to put in the work for the past papers, to engage with your teachers, to study with your peers. Attitude is not simply enough to do it. Discipline alone is not enough to do it. Discipline, but with a negative attitude, you do not have 100% outcome. So those two things are what I want you to anchor yourselves in as we go through the rest of the year. An incredible positive attitude, an incredible attitude for discipline as well, a mindset, a disciplined mindset, and discipline in action in terms of what you do with your time. Okay, all right, now we've got that going, right? We've understood what we need in order for us to be successful and achieve 100%. I'd like you maybe to tell me what key things stood out for you in that video. Anybody want to put up their hands? It is an engaging session. I really want us to get involved here, really just tackle all these issues and delve into some of the things that we need to get you to the next level. What are some of the things that stood out in that video for you about getting good grades being hard? Zabalaza, you can turn on your mic.
For me, things that stood out firstly was how one person had the quote that says, "The more I live, the more I realize the impact attitude has on life." So that is really a very good quote, because people tend to underlook their attitude towards life every day. And the fact that we have a choice of what type of attitude we have every day, really, it's like it gives us the steering wheel of where we want to get to, or the destination we want to get to.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that, Zabalaza. I like that. Another one I saw, was it Ongo had their hand up?
Good afternoon.
Hi, afternoon, Zakai.
I'm gonna say one of the few things that really had an impact on me when I was listening to that video, which was one thing that Eddie Garden said, which said that he said that you in life you can always choose to do the easy things, and when you tend to choose them, your life will be hard. But when you choose the hard things now, then your life will be easier. And then the other one that I also loved was the one that said, greatness is not for joyride, it's about adversity and learning from failure. And the other one that I really, really loved, because it's something that I love doing, it's the one that said, stop making excuses. Like, we need to stop making excuses and just work hard. Those were the three things that literally talked to me, and I loved them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to you, Zabalaza, for contributing. You've highlighted everything that I wanted to highlight in those videos. The greatness is no joyride. It is full of adversity. This is why the attitude has to be absolutely positive. And that you need to focus. You focus, no excuses, get it done. And that being talented, as we've proven now with our exercise, is not good enough. It's hard getting good grades. If it's really hard, then it means that you do it hard. No one else is going to show up for you, right? Now that we've established that, and we know that getting good results is hard, it requires an equal measure of discipline and incredible attitude and positivity. What are the skills and the tools that we can use to make sure that once we have our attitude right, once we have our sense of discipline right, we're not making excuses anymore? What are some of the tips and the skills that have been researched and proven to result in excellent achievements in academics? So let's go to a video that's titled 13 Tips to Study Effectively. I need you to take down these notes, all right? Because this is your session, and I want you to really interrogate some of these tips and be able to really put a question mark on some of the things that you don't understand, so we can unpack it together as we have the discussion on this. But Vuko, let's kickstart our 13 tips.
Our brain can potentially memorize 2.5 petabytes of information, which is roughly the equivalent of 3 million hours of YouTube videos. In order to use some of that staggering capacity a little more effectively when you learn, here are some tips that are based on widely accepted research by neuroscientists and learning experts. Spaced repetition. To maximize your learning, study short but often. Neuroscientists proved that synapses, the million billion connectors in your brain that make you remember and understand stuff, grow mainly at night when you were asleep. This means that it is more productive to study regularly with sleeping breaks in between. Try it. Practice something for 15 minutes every day and you'll be surprised by your progress within just weeks. Find your own style. While listening to the history teacher, Tom scribbles images and Jane finishes 1 kilo of nuts. Some enjoy watching videos over reading books, others study with friends, and some like sitting in silence among a million books. Everybody is different. Good night's sleep. Sleep and dreams are vital to processing and storing new information. A Harvard study showed that students who had a good night's sleep remembered their study materials 35% better than those who studied in the morning to take a test in the evening. Focus. If you tend to procrastinate, which means that you tend to switch from doing something hard like studying maths to something easy like browsing the web, protect yourself from distraction. One way of doing this is to shut down your mobile phone or go to a quiet place like a library. Pomodoro technique. Set a timer to 25 minutes when you focus entirely on your studies. When the timer rings, relax for 5 minutes. If you want to continue, just set the timer again. The small breaks in between are relaxing and motivating to keep going. Hard stuff first. Do the things that are difficult first, because if you are like most people, you have the strongest willpower in the morning. Once you are done with the hard stuff, you will feel better for the rest of the day and probably more motivated to get other things done. Exercise, meditate, and converse. There are few activities proven to grow your brain. However, physical exercise, regular meditation, and good conversations apparently do exactly that. They lead to the creation of new neurons inside your brain and therefore grow its potential. Go places. You can create deeper memories of a subject by learning in a richer environment that offers more visual clues. In an experiment, 2 groups of students had to remember random words. One group changed the classroom while studying, the other didn't. The group that studied in 2 different rooms, one was small and windowless, the other big and bright, was 40% more likely to recall the words later. Take fun seriously. Whatever it is, find a fun way to practice. Modern learning science believes that positive emotions are very important for increasing your learning potential. So do yourself a favor and have a good time. Space your studies. In order to remember things for a longer time, repeat the material in spaced intervals. Facts or vocabularies, for example, are best learned if you review them the first time 1 to 2 days after the initial study, and then again after 1 week and after 1 month. 30% read, 70% recite. If you have 1 hour to learn to recite a poem or prepare for a speech, spend 20 minutes of the time on studying the text and 40 minutes on practicing to recite. This ratio usually leads to the best results. In the case of an emergency, put a glass of water next to you. Take a sip whenever you lose it. Instant self-test. After you study, finish up with a quick quiz. Immediate recall in the form of a test or a short summary on what you've just learned can increase retention by as much as 30%. Because it's much harder for your brain to reflect than to read, that extra effort creates deeper traces in your memory. Don't force it. Motivation is like hunger. You cannot force yourself to be motivated, just like you can't tell someone else to be hungry. So if you are not hungry right now, don't worry. Take a break and do something else.
All right. right, lots of things in that video, so many things in the video. I'm going to start off by questions before we break it down bit by bit. How many of these tips are you currently using now? There were 13 tips that were given there. If anyone can give an indication of how many of those tips are they using and how they study now, you can just raise your hand. All right, with Sandy Limbutlubuka, I'm going to need your help in seeing who has their hand up. All right, you can put on your mic if you have your hand up.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Ma'am, I use the instant self-test. Every time I study, I usually have to study for take take classes, stuff if I really know English direct. 70% I also use that as well. When I'm practicing for speeches or presentations at school, I usually read it out, all of it, and then I restart myself or the sister and to practice and having fun seriously. So not all of the subjects I enjoy. So usually I usually.
Oh, Lusango, I'm so sorry. Your line is so bad. Oh, all right. He was highlighting some important things. They're saying he does the self-tests, and he also starts with the difficult subjects, the subjects he dislikes most first while he's studying. Then I lost him there as he was giving his third point. Is there anybody else who recognizes some of their study techniques in that video? Ngawe.
Good day, everyone.
Hi.
I'm currently using 3 of those tips. I am spacing my studies, and then the second one is the Pomodoro technique, whereby I study with a timer and then take 5-minute breaks with it in between. And then the third one that I'm using is the spaced repetition. I study short but regularly because I can't focus for a long time.
You see, now you've identified 3 things that I wanted to come back on. Kungwayo, I need you to explain to us, please, what is the difference between spaced studying and spaced repetition? Because when you're listening to it for the first time and seeing it in that infographic, you might think they're the same thing, but you seem to understand that they're 2 different things. What is spaced studying and what is spaced repetition?
Ma'am, I think spacing your studies is whereby when you space your topics, then put them in different and you're gonna be given your topics, and then you put them in different papers or something like that, and then you're going to focus on one topic, and then spaced repetition, you study short. No matter what you're studying, you study short, but then regularly.
Okay, all right. I can see how you understand it like that. And it's actually quite close to how they've defined it scientifically. So over the past week, we've just been reading and going through to make sure that we're able to really identify these key skills properly. So the understanding of spaced repetition is the fact that when you are doing something, let's say you're learning a theorem and you practicing it over past papers and that sort of thing. If you're doing spaced repetition, you do that for a little bit of time. Yes, it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours, but the idea is that you then sleep on it. So you don't take a break and take a nap, then go back to it, because then that's not allowing enough time for your brain to retain it. So you sleep on it, and then the next day you go back to that very same concept and you repeat it. Right, and then that spaced out studies is when, so let's say remember when you're learning how to count as a kid, or when you were memorizing some areas of the periodic table, right? You'd count from 1 to 20 on Monday, then you'd go back to school the next day and you count again from 1 to 20. So you always keep that base as a foundation. So the idea is that whatever theory that you're learning, whatever idea, whatever new concept that you're learning, that you learned at school today, right? You give it 2 days before you go and revisit that theory and that idea. Then you give it another week. You go back and revisit that idea. This is so that it forms a stable and set in your mind, that you're able to retain the information and the understanding of it in such a way that if they test you on that thing that you learned in term 1, and they test you on it in December, it is so entrenched in your brain and your memory and how you understand it that you're able to go back and draw from it. You'll hear from Mavo a little bit later on how things that you learn in grade 8 apply to even more complex issues in grade 12 and more complex issues in the future. All right, you mentioned the Pomodoro effect as well. I'm going to ask someone else to try and explain that to the team, apart from you, Kungwayo, who understands what the Pomodoro technique is.
We have Ulindisipo Hola.
Yes, please put your mic on.
Hello everyone.
Hi,
The way I understand the Pomodoro technique is to set a specific time to do only studying, nothing else, like without any distractions or anything. And then when the timer is when the time is finished, you do something else to relax, or yeah, that.
Okay, yes, so that is it. That is it. So let's specify it. So you choose a task, right? You're selecting a specific thing that you're going to be working on. You're going to be working on a geometry, for instance. You're going to work on it for 25 minutes. You set that timer, like he's just explained. You work on the task and you focus on it until the timer goes off. Then you take a short break. That recommended time for that short break is 5 minutes. And then you go back to the task. So you repeat and you start the cycle again. So it requires, or it encourages improved focus, reduces burnout. So you don't feel, I'm so exhausted from doing just this one topic, you know, and also better time management because you're being accountable by that timer. Are there any other things in those 13 tips, FGLs, that you saw, that you highlighted, or that you aren't doing and you want to start doing? What are some of those things that you're like, this is what I'm missing. I need to start adding this to my skill set? I see a hand up. I'm not sure who it is. Was Sandy there?
So we have Lafiga Msindo.
All right, Lafiga, you can turn your mic on.
Good evening, everyone. One of the skills that I highlighted and I like the most is the one when you are preparing for a speech. Well, even if you like it or not, but at times you have to be vocal and speak in public. So you'd find out that a lot of learners get nervous such that they do not know what to say. They stutter and be shaking and be sweating at the same time. But with this, saying that you should spend 70% of your time reading your text, which you wrote down, and then 30% of your time practicing what you have wrote. So I think this would help so that you don't try to memorize, because immediately when you get the eyesight of the people, you get lost and you get nervous and you shake and you get yay. So this is one of the skills that I think most of us, in fact, all of us should acquire, because it is a great skill. Because yes, thank you.
I agree with that, Lafik. It's just the ratio you got a little bit off. So it's 30% reading and 70% reciting. The reciting is just that. So as you say it out loud continuously, the words just roll off the tongue so much easier. So that if you have to look at cue cards, you're reading the first word, you already have the keyword for the answer. That's going to help with your orals at school in terms of your language. It's going to help with some of the theory heavy stuff as well, like history and geography and all those things. So it's very, very important that you're able to get that ratio right. I'm going to take one more before we move to the next video. Anybody else with a skill that they didn't think they needed in terms of study techniques and they saw it would be effective for them? See a hand up, can't see who it is.
Good afternoon again, everyone. It's me, I actually highlighted two things that I literally took for granted when it came to studying. And the first one was exercise, meditate, and convince. It's not the first time having about it, but it's just that I always felt like it's an unnecessary thing to do. Like every time I hear someone say, you need to exercise, meditate and converse, and I'll be like, I'd have an attitude against that. I'll be like, it's unnecessary. So for me to actually hear it here, it means it's important and I need to take it into consideration and stop taking it for granted. And then the second thing is going places. I've never found it as something very effective to do. I always had a bad perspective about it, but since it has been highlighted here, so I think it's another thing that I also need to take into consideration for better and effective studying. So those were the two things.
Love it. Thank you, Zakanya. I love it. I love it. We're going to keep on interrogating your study techniques while we inform you with more. So there's another video here, but I just want to wrap up this. So collaborating with peers, staying healthy, studying in new spaces, being motivated, having the right attitude, taking breaks, the Pomodoro effect, using space repetition, using space studies, practice retrieval of the information that you've started to learn through self-testing. All these things are so important, and staying organized and using multiple resources. These are the key things that I hope you are able to take out from this first video. Now, these specific techniques that have been identified and curated by scientists and researchers from all over the world. And one particular one is called the Feynman method. Let's go into a video about that and let's see what you understand with that and if you've actually ever considered using it as a study skill.
Feynman's learning technique is effective for learning something new, deepening your understanding of what you already know, or helping you study for an exam. The first step is to pick a topic you want to understand and start studying it. Once you know what it is about, take a piece of paper and write about it, as if you're teaching the idea to someone else. Ideally, write and speak at the same time, just as a teacher does it at the blackboard. This makes you realize which parts you understand and where you still have gaps. Whenever you get stuck, go back to study and repeat that process until you have explained the whole topic from start to end. When you're done, repeat the process from the beginning, but this time simplify your language or use a graphic analogy to make a point. If your explanation ends up wordy or confusing, you probably have not understood it well enough, so you should start again. Thinking about an idea by explaining it makes this learning method very effective. Once you can explain an idea in simple language, you have deeply understood it and will remember it for a long time. Richard Feynman was a leading theoretical physicist who received a Nobel Prize for his work in quantum electrodynamics. He was notorious for asking his fellow mathematicians to explain concepts in simple language to test their understanding. Thanks for watching. Also check out other Sprouts learning techniques, as they can complement the methods explained in this video. Please use the comments below to give us feedback or tell us which of the techniques is your favorite.
All right, so one of the greatest minds in science of his generation developed this technique, and that was because he used to ask his peers to explain subjects to him, and that's how he learned. How many of you are currently doing that? When you're learning a subject, how you help yourself learn it better by teaching it to somebody else? And if you can have an example for me, that would be fantastic, so we can illustrate to some of the FGLers how it works optimally.
We've got a hand from Ukanyisa Zingwe.
Yes, Kanyisa, we'll do Kanyisa and then we'll do Orotando. It's after Kanyisa.
Good day, everyone.
Hi, Kanyisa, we can hear you. Oh, now she's gone. Kanyisa, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, Miss, I can hear you.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Oh, Miss, I use this teaching method to study life sciences. So usually I'll break down the topics and then I'll teach a certain topic to my little cousins. They are probably like around 5, 6, but I know that they don't understand what I'm teaching, but I'll be teaching them, telling them something that they don't really know. So like I've always like if I teach something that I don't understand, it's going to be a bit easy for me to recall it and to understand it clearly. So like I do that using my board, my whiteboard. Yes.
Fantastic. So you use it for life sciences. Have you considered using it for any other subjects that you may be struggling with? Maybe try it and see if it's effective over the next term.
Okay, miss.
All right. Thank you, Kanyisa. Olo?
Molweni.
Hi, Puti.
Good evening, guys. Good evening to you. Ndisebenzisa kuzo zonke subjects, but mostly kwi-accounting and mathematics, because kwezinye subjects andikho good kakhulu, wes kwi-English. So what I do mna, mostly kwi-accounting, I teach also grade 10, no grade 11. I ndima phambi kweklasi, stand in front of the board, then ke ngoku ndibateache izinto ezithile, maybe kwezinye mhlambi ndikhawulezise ndifunde iitopiki ezintsha. Then ke ngoku since in term 3 we are told that term it's going to be too short, so I study ahead, then ke ngoku ndibancedise kwezinye esendizazi eziphambili. Also nakwi-maths, because zii-major zam ndenza ngolo hlobo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And although it's effective in helping you retain and improve on those subjects.
Ndisebenzela kakhulu, because I'm not bragging, but last term kwi-accounting zandifumane u-89%, but this term ndifumane u-92%.
Every right
So
to brag. Congratulations. Well done. I'm going to put the same challenge to you that I put to Ukanyisa, is that use this technique for the subjects that you're struggling with as well. Subjects where you're falling below that 70%, because it helps you identify the gaps. We're going to step into another video that's also going to talk about this technique in some detail as well. But Luvugo, if you could please, let's get into 5 ways of studying effectively. Then we'll go back and answer some questions.
Stop studying. What you're doing right now might waste of time. Read over your notes. Review the class material. Highlight things. Repetition, repetition, repetition. These study tactics have been drilled into you for years, but the science is very clear. Certain study techniques are more beneficial than others. So instead of you spending hours and hours trying to search for the right answer, I've done the work for you. And in today's video, you're going to develop a significant advantage over the rest of your class, your friends, and your peers. You're going to learn the 5 best techniques for studying effectively in less time than anyone else. Now, if you want this to sink in and you want to be a master student, is while you watch, you're going to take action immediately. And this video is the first in a free 5-part video course on becoming the most remarkable student that you can be. And Motivation to Study and I, we want this information to be available to anyone, anywhere, at no cost. Because we believe you shouldn't have to pay for this. It should have been taught to you in your school, in your lesson. And since it wasn't, we got you covered. We're giving this all away for free. So just make sure you subscribe to both of our channels and you ring the bell icon so you know when new lessons are released. Let's get into it. Did you know there are people out there so good at remembering things that they compete in tournaments of learning, and they are known as memory athletes? In an annual contest called the World Memory Championships, they were given 20 minutes to remember a list of 72 random words, and on average they scored nearly 71 of the 72. By contrast, an untrained control group could only manage 26. Another example, Akira Haraguchi. At 69 years old, much older than most of you listening, in 2006 recited 111,700 digits of pi from memory at a public event near Tokyo. For 16 hours, he kept going and going and going. Imagine the power of having a memory like that. And starting today, I want you to imagine yourself as one of them. You're not just a student or a teenager or a grad, but you are a memory athlete. You're going to become someone with such power over your mind that you can recall pages of notes, equations, formulas that you need without the endless hours of beating information into your head. But how? Do you need an innate gift? Can you learn it? Well, actually, you already have. Picture where the spoons are kept in your kitchen, the socks in your room, the color of your toothbrush. These memory athletes use an ancient Greek technique called memory palaces. And once you master this technique, you too are going to dramatically improve your ability to study effectively and finally open up your dormant reserves of memory. The idea is simple. You walk through an environment like your house and you place objects in specific places, and then you match the things you want to learn with those objects. So when you're trying to remember that information, perhaps the notes you took that day in class, you don't just think back to your notes. You think of where those notes are in your house. Which object did you attach it to? What's the color? And you reapply this until it becomes crystal clear in your mind. This technique maps new information onto something that your brain has already evolved to do extremely well. Recall imagery in specific locations. The second technique. For years, people have known that the best way to understand a concept, explain it to someone else. The second technique I want to introduce you to is also known as the protege effect, aka teach someone what you want to learn. A 2007 study looked at this. How does teaching someone impact your learning? Students in this study who were also teachers to younger students, they scored higher on tests than pupils who were learning only for their own sake. Why? Well, the researchers found when you choose to teach someone else, you have to work harder to understand the material, to recall it more accurately and apply it more effectively, something known as depth of processing. Physicist Robert Feynman created a mental model called the Feynman technique. Now, some of you may have already seen videos about this on YouTube. This technique has 4 steps to it. Number 1, write the name of a concept on the top of a blank page that you want to learn. Number 2, write down an explanation of the concept as if you're teaching a new student. Number 3, identify what's missing. Go back, relearn. And step 4, review everything. Make sure you're avoiding using complicated language and try to simplify everything on the page as much as possible. Now, this technique, it forces you to deconstruct and then reconstruct ideas. To use this method and learn how to study effectively, identify first, what do you want to learn? And then try to imagine you're explaining it to a 5-year-old. Number 3, master students are committed to effective study strategies, but shipwrecked students are committed to ineffective study strategies. If I asked you right now, is reading again and again a good way to learn? Is highlighting a good way to learn? Is using keyword mnemonics? Well, all of these, they're scientifically proven to be relatively low in effectiveness for long-term learning. At the other end of the scale, things like practice tests, spreading out your learning, they are scientifically proven to boost your performance. Let's take a look. In 2005, a guy called Reagan A.R. Gurung assessed 229 students using 11 different techniques of studying. He then matched their techniques with their final exam scores. And many, but not all, of the techniques they used, they did achieve better exam scores. For example, the number of hours they put in, it did help. But things like starting studying early, or reading material before and after class, that didn't seem to be effective. Reagan also found detriments to studying, and one of them was listening to music. So what did he find that does work? Well, Reagan actually found a technique that strongly predicted your exam score, and that was the number of times a student did practice tests. This one thing, above all others, had a significant impact on how well they did on their final exam. He even found that rewriting notes, reviewing highlighted material, it didn't really impact the final exam score that much. So like I said, master students are committed to effective study strategies, but shipwrecked students are committed to ineffective study strategies. And if you want to know which type of student you are, click on the link in the description and take the quiz to find out if you're a master, a dabbler, or a shipwreck castaway when it comes to your study. Not all hustle is created equal. Have you ever heard of number 4, the Zeigarnik effect? It's a concept in psychology that argues you remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than the ones that you complete. Why? When we start a task and then interrupt it, it creates a task-specific tension that can improve your cognitive function. So step away from your desk as you study. That tiny little tension that you feel. I still need to finish reviewing that chapter. I haven't done the next paper yet. It keeps the task at the top of your mind. And this keeps your brain focused on it. This way you can easily access that information and remember it better. So how do you take advantage of this technique? You take frequent breaks during your deep work. The Zeigarnik effect suggests that students who take breaks during which they perform totally unrelated activities, studying other subjects, reading a book, going on a 3-minute walk, playing the piano, they remember material better than students who go through longer study sessions without taking a break. A popular way that I'm sure most of you have heard of is the Pomodoro technique, where you work for 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. You work for 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. And the final tip of this first lesson in our course Cramming is better than not studying in the short term. But is 7 hours in one day better than 1 hour every day for a week? If you were given the same amount of time for study, would you be better off spreading it out? And the answer is a resounding yes. Space it out. This is known as distributed practice. Distributing learning over time, either in a single study session or across study sessions, it benefits long-term retention more than massive cramming and learning back to back. Space your study out. And how general are the effects? How consistent? Well, one group of scientists looked at 254 studies involving over 14,000 people, and overall, students recalled more after spaced study than after cramming and massed study. So look, at the end of the day, you have to do what works for you. Having family and friends around, replying to your messages on your smartphone, missing class, having the TV on, that's not going to help you. But doing practice tests, getting to sleep on time, eating the proper nutrition, exercising, explaining what you've learned to others, using these techniques, they are going to help. So you know what the techniques are. You have to prepare effectively. You have to focus on the right things effectively. And most of all, you have to take action every single day. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next lesson of the series. Peace.
All right, so much to take away from there. And I think because they've defined the 5 techniques, I'm going to ask you some questions before we then unpack them. That first technique that he spoke about in this video is a memory palace. Memory palaces. Who understands that concept and what does it mean to them? Anybody? With Sandy Lebuduvugo, do you see anyone who's got their hand up?
Can I try?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this is Valencia. I'm not so sure if I'm going to be accurate or not. But what
That's
I
fine.
understood from a memory palace is that they were telling us about how much your brain can retain, like I think throughout your entire life, and that your brain has like a lot of space. So I feel like the memory palace was referring to the fact that there's a lot of things that we put into our mind that really aren't as effective, and we could use our brains for carrying more effective capacity.
Okay, you are almost there. So the reference to, remember they started off that video by talking about memory athletes, the people who are world champions at remembering things, that they can recall almost anything that they've seen, read, or written. And that's because when we're creating a memory palace, it means that you are attaching a theory to an object. So if you're looking around your house where you are sitting now in your lounge, in your bedroom, perhaps there's a pen, perhaps there's a lamp that's there. If you then associate a certain theory, a certain concept, a certain idea to that lamp, it means that every time you look at that lamp, you're looking at a physics theory. You're looking at a specific concept that is assigned to that. So you're creating little memories that are related to your studies and your subjects based on objects that you see every single day. So when you're going into the kitchen, you don't have to think about where the spoons are. You know which drawer to open, and there you'll find your spoon. If your mom is asking for a cup of tea, you know where the cups are. You don't have to think about it. So if you associate certain subjects and specific topics to objects that are familiar to you, that you see around you all the time, then you are able to recall those concepts and those theorems much more easier, because it then lives in your memory as part of your daily activity. So you're able to draw and build on those based on that. So I'm having a cup of tea. This is the Ndondon theorem. I don't know. I haven't been to high school in forever, so I don't know what theorems to attach to it. But this attaching subject matter theory to a specific object helps you retain, recall, and that information for a very, very long time. You might be stepping into your house 10 years from now as a natural scientist, and you still remember that that spoon is a certain theory in a subject that you're struggling with, okay? So that's the idea of a memory palace. It crystallizes it in your mind. The second thing is the Feynman effect, which is what we started speaking about with Ukanyisa and Olotando. And they both prove what they say in the study. If you were to go home now, or if you were to go to school on Monday and share the Feynman effect with someone, how would you explain it to them? Anyone? You can just put on your mic or put up your hand. Help me out. I can't see
So
who's
we
saying
have
it.
Laviwa Mduzulwana.
All right, Laviwa, the Feynman effect, all yours.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible, ma'am? Am I able to? Am I audible?
Your network is a little bit bad. Your line is breaking. Can you try again? Can you say something back to me?
Can I be heard, Mimgo?
Yeah, better. Okay, let's hear it.
The finding method, I would define it as, if I were to like explain it to someone, I would say that whenever someone like drops a concept, they will first need to write the name of the concept. Like it first, and then after that they find the actual concept. So like that's the second step in the finding method. And the third step, you identify the missing piece. You whenever like you're studying this,
oh, line.
What you're struggling with. It's very easy to to tackle a specific concept. So I would say I would define the refinement method in that way, man.
Okay. I think from what I could hear from you, you got it, right? So it's the idea of teaching someone something in order for you to learn it. So you define the concept, right? You write it down. Could be anything specific to a subject that you want to learn or theory that you want to learn. Then you break it down like you are teaching it to a child. So just like Ukanyisa is teaching life sciences to a 5-year-old nephews, that's what you can do. But then in your teaching, you then identify the gaps in between and review. This is where I'm missing an understanding. This is where I'm missing this. And then you go back and you reteach yourself and you reteach that child and making sure that the concept is as clear as possible. So you deconstruct it, then you reconstruct it until it's solidified in your mind. That is really the essence of it. Any other thoughts on the 5 tips? Is there anybody else that's here that wants to give me the third one? Studying effectively. So there's so many things that we do that, as we say, we are studying effectively. We have these beautiful notebooks that are highlighted. We repeat. We make notes after class and never really kind of internalize what they're for. What are the effective study techniques that were highlighted? There was a report there that this video mentioned about Regan O.R. Gorgon, about studying effectively. Anyone remember what that was about? All right. See a hand up. Go ahead.
It's Kanyisa Zingwe.
Thanks, Kanyisa.
Miss, I think I wrote down the following techniques to study effectively. So you have to test yourself whenever you start something, right? And then let's say you're studying math or a certain topic, let's say studying geometry. So like you have to find past papers on geometry and then practice them. And then you must make it a habit to study early. Don't study 2 days before the test or 3 days before. Maybe you can study a week or 2 weeks before, even a month, for you to be fully ready. And then
Lost you there, can you say?
You must read notes after and before a session. Let's say you had a period of for English. You must study what you learned during that period immediately after you're done, or immediately when you get home. So you must study it, and then you must put hours. Don't study too much, but you must have a certain number of hours that you study.
Okay.
And then, yes, that's it.
All right, I love that. I'm happy, very happy about two of those responses. So now we're trying to differentiate a master student between a dabbler and a shipwreck student, right? And the key things here is the practice test. You brought that up beautifully, and spreading out your learning so that you are not cramming, because you're not going to retain that information, and then putting in the hours that is so important. So getting away from just writing notes and highlighting and not using the time effectively. The number of exam papers that you do, that is the big, big differentiator. There's something called the Zeigarnik effect. Does anybody remember what that is? They mentioned it in the video. Zeigarnik effect. Anybody?
We have Uzabalaza Kolos.
All right, Zabalaza, all yours.
So the Zeigarnik effect is when you are doing a specific task and maybe let something distract you, or you get up and take a walk, listen to music, just do something very irrelevant to the task you were doing. They say that it helps to keep the task at the top of your mind, that you still have this unfinished task that you need to get back to. You haven't finished reviewing that chapter, you haven't done the next part of the test or exam, whatever past paper you were doing. And so it helps you when you get back, your attention span is back on it, and it improves how you absorb what you're learning or doing.
Perfectly said. Okay. All right. I feel like this has been a successful study tip execution skills transfer. I want you to know that we are going to be sharing these videos with you. We're going